Hey everybody, welcome back to Brainiac Baseball's 1985 Detroit Tigers season replay. Earlier today we completed the month of June, and so this video will be the June summary where we take a look at the standings, the league leaders, and we'll take a look at our brand new player pyramid. Now, if you've been following along all season, you know that we started off the month of June with the hopes that by the time we got through this month, we'd have a better idea of whether or not we're in it, or if we were going to maybe start trading off some of our pieces. And since this is the final year of our sim, I think I want to try to go for it because we are within striking distance of the Boston Red Sox. But our month was not successful. We barely treaded water. We finished, as you can see, one game above 500. We lost 2 of 3 to the lowly Toronto Blue Jays. Our starting staff, there's not a single player on our starting pitching roster that we can count on for a victory. Our bullpen has been terrible this month, although we have been cycling players into AAA and to the IL in order to give them a bit of rest. And no one on our team can hit anymore. So we don't have any real reason that we can win the division. We're going to take a look at the standings first, and then I want to show what I've done with our roster as we turn the page to July. There it is. Now we had the first day of July. We had that off, so we've already played in advance to July 2nd. So we are ready for the Orioles series. Let's take a look at the standings first and foremost, and we'll see that we have fallen 4 games back, a half game behind the Yankees, only 1 game ahead of Cleveland, 2 games ahead of Baltimore. We could very easily, within a week, be 10 games back and probably out of it altogether. I don't have any plans to do any trades immediately, but I'll tell you later on in the video what I'm thinking about to try to get things turned around and headed in the right direction. Now, looking at the standings, you'll see Boston has a 3.5 game lead over the Yankees. Boston, we know they can hit. They have power. They have the most home runs in our division. Their stolen bases are above the league average, and their ERA is also better than the league average. So, Boston is a team that's going to be tough to compete against. You know what? Let's just take a look at their roster real quick. Yeah, for whatever reason, every player on this team is hitting well above their career average. With the exception of Wade Boggs, who's batting probably right where he did in real life. So, it's how do you compete against a team who has not one single batter other than Wade Boggs above 90? Everybody's in the 80s, and yet they're competing, with statistics that are well above where they should actually be in real life. Their bench guys are good too. They have depth in AAA. They have Jim Rice, Gino Petralli, and Willie Mays Aikens. This is a team that I just don't see how we're going to get over on them. Now, they've suffered injuries with their pitching, and yet it hasn't really affected them. Alan Nipper just came off the IL, and even other starters have been moved to long relief and to AAA, so they have incredible depth. Even Dana Kicker down here on the IL will be back before the end of the year. So they have a lot of strengths. Their bullpen is good. Their closer is great. I don't know what we're going to be able to accomplish. If you look at our numbers here, we're only 9 games above 500. Our team batting average is below the league average. Our home runs are right around league average. And that's in a stadium Tiger Stadium, in which left-handed bats have a 58% more likely chance to hit home runs, and yet we're not pounding them at all. We stopped stealing intentionally because it was leading to automatic outs. It even happened today. We missed a hit and run earlier in the game that we played, and it was a strike him out, throw him out. I mean, there's no point in running. There's no point in taking extra bases. They're more likely to lead to outs. And, we're still in it, even though we've adopted that theory at the beginning of May. So why should we make a gamble? How often does it pay off? Not often enough. We do have a team ERA that is the second best in the American League, and that's with a roster that's just flailing. So, I don't know what it is that we can do at any point to make this team better. Toronto, they won 2 out of 3 against us, and yet they're out of it. Milwaukee, out of it, and they've owned us this year. If you look at the American League West, Chicago does seem to be the strength of the division. They have the best record in the American League. Oakland is hanging in there. Seattle and California are almost out of it. The Mariners have lost 4 in a row. I would have guessed for sure that they would be the division winner. And it's their pitching that seems to be their weakness. They can certainly hit. They've almost hit, not quite 2 home runs per game, I guess, because we're at the halfway point. But they've certainly hit more than their share. And the Angels, just despite having great pitching, they haven't had very good hitting. Texas, Minnesota, and Kansas City are done. We'll take a look here at the National League. The Chicago Cubs, I think because of their pitching staff, with Roger Clemens of all players, is going to own this division for quite a long time. Philadelphia seems to be struggling, mostly because of their injuries. We've seen them suffer injuries with their starters recently. Pittsburgh, I never thought would be in it, but they're hanging out 5 games above 500. And the Mets have just completely fallen apart, and they are now 10 games back. Oh, my goodness, I almost sneezed. Apologize. And then we have Montreal and St. Louis who are done. And this division here in the West is over already. Cincinnati made a whole bunch of trades, and none of them have helped them. In fact, when we get to the player pyramid, you'll see that most of them have completely dropped off the pyramid. So a bummer for them. Los Angeles has the best record in all of baseball. And, I think they're going to coast to the finish line. Every other team in this division is out of it. And when I do look to make trades, I tend to look at only teams that are 10 games back or more. And I do that because they're more likely to have more options. Also, if we're going to cherry pick players, teams that are still in the race are not going to give up some of their strengths, right? If anything, they're looking to make good deals too. So I just use that as like a soft rule in order to try to find players that we can, try to find teams that we can take advantage of. So keep that in mind as when we get to talk about trades in a little bit here. So there's the standings for the American League and the National League. I wouldn't say that we have completely bowed out at only being four games back, but the game is always going to try to keep us close. We're never going to fall totally out of it until maybe September. So we have to be wise about what kind of trades we may or may not make. Let's take a look at the standings, the team roster, so I can show you what I did after today's game. Now, George Brett and Dave Smith both came off the IL. We designated them to the IL. The game did not. We did in order to give them a little bit of a break. Now, George Brett has been terrible. Absolutely horrible. 1 home run in 225 at-bats. and yet I feel like he is our best option going forward. I would like to believe that George Brett, who got a good rest and now he's at an 85 rating, I would like to think that he's going to turn it around and start pounding the cover off the ball. I don't know that to be true. We did see that there was a team that made us an offer for him. I guess it was the Reds. And maybe we lost that opportunity now that the Reds are more than 10 games back. But there will be some interest in George Brett, although we have him under contract for 2 more seasons. So George Brett is back on the roster. We sent Kirk Gibson to the IL intentionally because he has completely stopped hitting. His power has all come in the first 2 months of the year. His batting average is down to 222 after batting 290 last year. He's got no gap power anymore, only 8 doubles. I don't think he's even going to get to 100 hits the way he's been playing. His OPS is 134 points off of last year. He's just bad, and I don't know how or why. He is in a walk year. His overall rating is an 80, so maybe we could just, maybe take a sack of peanuts for him and be glad to get rid of his contract. I don't know. But because we put Kirk Gibson down on the IL, we had to get ourselves a 4th outfielder because Kevin Bass will take over in left for the next 15 days. So we called up Eddie Milner over the newly acquired Danny Heap. And that's because Eddie Milner, although he has a worse rating, can play all the outfield positions. So we're going to take advantage of that. He'll be a 4th outfielder and fill in when a player gets tired. Danny Heap will stay in the minor leagues. I did send Marty Party back to AAA because Terry Kennedy is going to retake the catching duties. He continues to hit really well. He's batting .301. The power has waned a little bit, and he's really not driving in runs anymore. But Damon Berryhill has been horrible. I mean, absolutely terrible in every facet of the game. And you'll see how much he's actually dropped on the player pyramid. When we traded for him, he was the #1 overall best player in the game based on WAR. And that's a combination of defense and his batting skills. And he was the #1 player, and he's batting .173 now. And with 100 at-bats, essentially, as a Tiger, we cannot even play him anymore if we want to win. So, he'll be our backup catcher because at least defensively he gives us something of value. So when I sent Marty Castillo down, that actually put 3 catchers in AAA. And when you have 3 at any position in any level of the minor league system in Baseball Mogul, they stop improving and some of them decline because the game will divvy up at bats among anyone who can play that position. So I ended up cutting Rich Gedman, who among the catchers at the AAA level had the lowest rating. So Marty Party will go to AAA. We'll see him again at some point, maybe as a September call-up. If you were curious, he threw out 33% of the base runners. So he did okay, but maybe it wasn't anything to write home about. So Terry Kennedy, who has a poor defensive rating, still at least guns down runners. As I mentioned, we're going to let him take over. Now, Ricky Jordan we called up to give him a few at-bats as a right-hander versus lefties. He went 0-for-14 with 1 damn RBI, in which a run scored on a ground ball, you may remember. So he's done. That was his one opportunity. And I decided to call up Mark Ryle. Mark Ryle does have power, a 92 rating. He's got gap power. And why not let him bat as a DH, because he can't really play anywhere defensively but first. We could platoon him at first with Rusty Tillman, who's a right-handed bat. But we'll give him a shot as a DH and see if he can't start hitting some home runs for us, especially since lefties are supposed to hit more home runs in our stadium. I don't know. I mean, we're going to give it a shot. He's 24 years old. He doesn't take a walk. He's going to strike out. But maybe he'll blast a few and give us a little bit of value. Certainly his rating is better than Mike Pagliarulo, who we could, as another option, put at the DH spot. Mikey Pags has hit 8 home runs for us in 128 at-bats, which is great. But, I mean, where's that really got us? And then he had 2 errors today. So his fielding percentage at third base with 8 errors and 35 starts is .911. So that's not great. And his defensive WAR has now been terrible. So we may as well just put George Brett there and let him flail. And hopefully Brett will start hitting a little bit better. So that's what I've done with our offense. I mean, this just looks terrible. And I'm not really sure what else to do to make it right. But it's what we're going to have to live with for now. We'll take a look at the pitching staff. Welcome back to Dave Smith, who spent 15 days on the IL getting some rest. We're going to bring him back, put him right back in the closer role. Jeff Montgomery will move out of the closer role into the setup role. Danny Jackson sucks ass on a level that I did not expect him to. He's walked 13 more batters and he struck out. So he's going to go to AAA, and he will be traded very quickly here, maybe for a starting pitcher. Todd Fisher has 5 more days where he has to remain in AAA because we set him down for a 10-day break. And so Fisher will come back and slide into the setup role. Montgomery will go to short relief. Carl will go to middle relief, and Guppy Gumpert will go back to AAA. So to replace Danny Jackson as a left-handed reliever, we called up the creeper, Paul Gibson, and we'll give him another shot. Frank LaCourte. I've done everything but really cut him. I don't think he's going to help us anymore at all. And we really don't have anybody else to help us at the AAA level. I am curious about Vicente Palacios. I'd like to get him in to some sort of role, probably when we get to September. But we've got nobody else anywhere until we get to these single A guys who I'm hoping will eventually be good for us. So that's our roster right now, our batters, our pitchers. I think we're going to trade Danny Jackson for a starter. We'll slot him in there. Probably at that point put Jeff Robinson in AAA for a 10-day break because he's just no longer able to get anybody out. Rosie had a good start today. Coney's done. Petrie might be done. Brian Kelly could not get out of the 3rd inning. I mean, we're only halfway through the season, and we don't have a single pitcher who's thrown 100 innings yet. So why are they tired? Why are they flailing? Why are we not having any success based on our ratings versus our opponents' ratings? I don't get it. Why is our defense committing so many errors compared to the defenses of our opponents? What do the ratings mean? I would have to say nothing at all. Okay, so there we go. We've looked at the roster. We've looked at the standings. Let's go ahead. We're going to go out of order here. We're going to pull up the end of June player pyramid and take a look at this before we look at the league leaders, because this might tell us something about the league leaders. A lot of change. We have 8 new players coming to the player pyramid, so 8 left. The 8 players who are no longer on the pyramid. Some surprises. Darren Dalton, who just got traded. He, I believe, got traded to the White Sox. He dropped off. Tony Gelfi, starting pitcher for the Phillies, is gone. Al Lakowitz, starting pitcher for Texas. Mike Boddicker of the Orioles. Rick Rhoden of the Pirates. Bill Gullickson of the Expos. Randy Johnson of the Cincinnati Reds. And Sap Randall, who's a DH on the White Sox. All dropped off. The new number 1 is the Seattle Mariners' Ricardo Sainz. There are, I believe, pardon me, 4 Seattle Mariners in the top 10 in home runs. Dennis Earl Camboyd jumps from 3 to 2, and then from 2 to 3 is Randy Azador of Seattle. Dale Sveum of the White Sox went from the 5th row all the way to the 2nd row. Kurt Ford jumped up from the previous row into the 2nd row. And Mike Witt was off the board. He is our biggest jumper, coming off the board up to the 2nd row, the end of the 2nd row. So pretty big jump there for a newcomer. Then we have Alan Cockrell, who's I think remains in this row. Then we have the newcomers, Fritzy Connolly of the Yankees, and Kevin Mitchell jumps onto the list of the Oakland Athletics. He's our second biggest, he's the 3rd biggest mover on the pyramid, but I think he's the biggest mover in home runs. Britt Burns remains on the list, and then here's our Damon Berryhill coming from the number 1 spot. He had the highest WAR when we traded for him, and now he's falling to the end of the 3rd row, and he'll be off the list probably by the end of July because we won't be playing him. Then we have Fernando Valenzuela remaining on the list. Shooty Babbitt jumping up for the A's. Jim Traber remains on the list, so does Ron Darling. Chico Walker of the Red Sox jumps up on the list. Luis Medina of the Giants, I believe, is still on the list. So is Dave Henderson and Mark Langston. Mike Stanley joins the list. For the Indians, there's Teddy Higuera still hanging out in the 5th row. And then we have Dave Hengel of Seattle, another player in the top home run lead. Ron Robinick dropped from the 3rd row down here to the 5th row. And a newcomer, Tom Candiotti, I believe, who is on signed a free agent signing. I think he's on maybe the Reds. I can't remember now. He's in the National League, I believe. So there's the player pyramid. A lot of Seattle players, and that's kind of shocking, right? Because, I mean, they're kind of out of it already. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players on the list, and yet they might very well be out of it. So there's the end of June player pyramid. If you want a longer look at this, I'll have it up later on the YouTube community page for Brainiac Baseball, or it'll be on the Facebook homepage. You can check it out there. Okay? All right, so now all we have to do is take a look at the league leaders. We're going to take a look at the American League here first. The batting leaders is, I think Lenny Harris has become our arch enemy, not on the player pyramid, but man, he absolutely crushed us when we played the Brew Crew. He's batting .368. He's a 20-year-old rookie for Milwaukee. And he's unstoppable. I feel like every game. Well, look at his log. Why am I talking about it? Look at that log. He had 3, 4, 5. He had 6 hits that series. He only drove in 2 runs. A couple of stolen bases. He just always seemed like he was on base. And then Ricardo Sainz batting .343. Chico Walker, Randy Azador, Wade Boggs, of course, Dale Sveum, Paul Molitor. That's good to see. I feel like that kind of came out of nowhere. Jim Traber, Bob Pate of Baltimore. That's kind of out of nowhere. And Tom Dunbar, I believe, was there last month. There's Ernie Riles. There you'll see that there's, plenty of players still batting above 300. It's nice to see Wilson, Kennedy, and Larkin all hanging around the 18 through 21. Are these three players dominating, by our standard? Are they making up for the players who suck on our team? I guess not. For whatever reason, Willie Wilson has got power now. He's got 3 home runs. Terry Kennedy has been good since we got him. And I'm happy to see Barry Larkin actually hitting well because I hated to trade Alan Trammell. But Larkin has filled in okay. Other than on the defensive end, he's not been great. And then you see a wrap up with the top 25, Dick Davis batting .295. So kind of amazing. All right, take a look at it. Bats. We'll try to go through these quickly. Chico Walker leading. No Tigers in there because we swap people out all the time. We're doing all the hitters' stats first. In doubles, it's Tim Flannery for the White Sox with 24. TK's got 17. Willie Wilson has 17. And Jim Eisenreich is combined for 16 with Minnesota and Detroit. We almost never have anybody on this list, so that's kind of nice. All right, extra base hits. Randy Azador with 46 leading the American League. You see a lot of Seattle hitters in the top 10. Jim Eisenreich and TK with 28. Let's see, grounding into double plays. Yeah, I want to know. Nobody on Detroit, and that's because we hit and run so much. And I think because we do that, yes, we may stay out of double plays, and yes, we might move a player up, into scoring position. But how often do we capitalize on it? Like never, right? And how many swings and misses, strike them out, throw them out have we had? So, if I just didn't hit and run at all, if I did not use one single thing that Baseball Mogul gives us in one pitch mode for strategy, would our team be better? Like if I just pushed the button instead of choosing hit or run, would we be winning more? Maybe. Maybe we would. I don't know. Maybe that should be our goal for the month of July, is not do anything but push the button and do roster changes. You know what? I convinced myself. That's what I'm going to do. I just talked myself right into that. Okay, extra base hits. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm dumb. All right, let's... I do want to see fielding because, we've swapped so much here. TK, well, he wasn't that great to start with. Mickey Tettleton is the best defensive catcher based on fielding percentage. First base is Alvin Davis, but Rusty Tillman doing a good job. Maybe we need to play him versus righties, even though he can't hit righties. Lou Whitaker, second best defensively behind Marty Barrett. That's acceptable. At third base, we don't have anyone that qualifies. But we will get George Brett in there. I think we got to stick with him unless we trade him. So George Brett's probably going to be our third baseman the rest of the year. Jack Howell with a .959. These are all like what you would expect from the hot corner. Let's see. Shortstop. Barry Larkin kind of in the middle of the pack. Tony Fernandez is the best defensively. Alan Trammell second for California. Dickey. And Robin Yount. Now, Robin Yount and George Brett, they're kind of synonymous. Their rookie year was the same year. And I look at Robin Yount, and he's still producing. Still hitting home runs, batting over 300. And George Brett is terrible. I would never say Robin Yount was a better hitter, ever, than George Brett. Although I like Robin Yount a lot. So, yeah, that just tells you how effed up this game is. Defensively in left field, hey, Kirk Gibson, having a great year defensively. What, is he, though? Let's take a look at his defensive rage and war. No, I guess he's just average. He's just getting the job done. 3 assists, only 2 errors. And he hasn't really affected any particular game. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Let's take a look at center field. Willie in the middle of the pack. Daniel Fernandez and Ty Gainey. Neither one has committed an error. And in right field, there's Jim Eisenreich. In the middle of the pack, Bob Pate. Bob Pate might be an all-star. I have no idea who's going to represent us in the all-star game. It'll probably be Berryhill, I'm guessing. Okay, hits. Who's got the most hits? It's Chico Walker, 123. 5 batters have reached 100. I would say, unless there's an injury, Chico and Lenny will get to 200 for sure. Willie Wilson has 92. I mean, I always struggle with where to put Willie in the lineup. I think someone suggested batting, I think it might have been Julio, and it was a good suggestion to put Barry Larkin in the leadoff role and put Willie Wilson somewhere else. And we did have Willie Wilson batting ninth for a while. But if he's one of your best hitters and he can somehow find a way to always get on base, then I think we just got to at least have him in the leadoff role and put Larkin second. I don't know. Who's been hit by pitch the most? Chuck Jackson, my namesake, has 5. I'd hit me too, probably. Kirk Gibson, Pags, Baker. Okay. Home runs. Here it is. We got 4 Seattle Mariners in the top 5. Only 5 batters have 5 or more 20 or more home runs. Kevin Mitchell kind of came out of nowhere. He is a home run hitter in this game, but he was not anywhere on the list before. So he's got 19. You see Tim Hewlett and Sap Randall. Van Snyder got demoted to AAA for all his effort. And Danny Tarbell's got 17. Gibson is on the list, but I mean he's going to fall off here momentarily as we put him on the IL. Okay, intentional walks. Randy Azador has 4. Doug Baker's got 1. That's dumb. On base percentage, Ricardo Saenz. I love the fact that we have 5 batters that are still over 400. None of them should be there, with the exception of Wade Boggs, but baseball mogul. That's all you need to know. Barry Larkin's got a 370. But he's okay, so there's the argument for Julio. I mean, if Willie Wilson was getting on base more, he'd have a better on base percentage. So maybe Barry Larkin's got to be number 1. Or maybe he should be number 2, and he's going to take more walks. I don't know. I guess the key is who's going to bat third. It should be George Brett, but he sucks. Outfield assists. Clint Hurdle. I love how these have all gone down, in the sense that we're not running on them anymore and getting thrown out twice a game. So I think there's going to be a lot of defensive range numbers going down compared to last year. So Clint Hurdle and Danny Tartable. I mean, what are their arms? A 70. And Danny Tartable, we know, is 73, right? Oh, okay, 76, which is below average. Dave Henderson's got a rifle. Yeah, 92. And Darren Jackson, I don't know. 84. Okay, that's good. All right, so there's some good ones in there with some shitty ones. I mean, it's just so dumb. It shouldn't be that way. All right, let's look at the OPS. Ricardo. I mean, we have 3 above 1,000. That is kind of amazing. Terry Kennedy is on the list. That's good. Plate appearances. Is it Chico? It is Chico with almost 400 right now. We don't need to see range. RBI. 83 for Dale Sveim. 83 in 81 or 82 games, depending upon whether or not they played with us having the day off today. Yeah. We got nobody on this list, as you would expect. I think the most was Kirk Gibson, who had 49, but we just demoted him. Let's see. Runners thrown out defensively by catchers. TK had 18, and Berryhill has 6 since we traded for him. Marty Party had even more than Damon Berryhill. That's just such a joke. And we're going to put Kennedy back in there, see if he can make up some ground. Rick Rona has thrown out the most despite having a 87 arm, so that's pretty damn good. All right. There's the percentages. Terry Kennedy had the second highest. All right, well. Cool. Run scored. Chico Walker has 74. He's the leadoff hitter for Boston. Well, everyone's batting 300, so yeah. All you got to do is get on base. You're going to score. We don't have anybody because we don't score runs. Sacrifice hits. Dougie Baker with 11. He's 7 up on Kurt Siebert. Whitaker, Marty Party, even Willie Wilson's got one. Sacked flies, Bob Scooby, and Gary Templeton of the Royals. I mean, if we choose sacrifice fly, it's always a pop-up or a ground out. So there's no point in even choosing that. I mean, it never actually works. Let's see. We don't really care about slugging. Steals, we care about that, even though we don't do it. Stan Jefferson of Oakland has 42. He's 2 up on Mike Felder. And really the top 10 is, I mean, from 6 through 10. They're under 20, so the rest of the league's not stealing anyway, other than a couple blips. What else we got here? Who struck out the most? Randy Azador was 72. We don't have anybody on that list, but of course, you know, we put tune a lot, and we hit and run, trying to make contact. Triples. DJ Dozier of the Royals has 6. So does Felder and Denny Gonzalez of Toronto. Randy Azador has 5. Willie Wilson's got 3. And, okay, so that's all of the hitting categories. Since we're all right here, let's just take a look at the National League. We don't need to really get into this, but Willie McGee batting 340. Top 10 with Billy Joe Robideau batting 300. We almost had 25 batters in the American League batting over 300, and they only have 10. Yeah, so I don't know. That's weird. All right. Willie McGee did win the batting title once. And so did, of course, did Tony Gwynn. Very, theirs is more realistic. Home runs, Eric the Red with 21 and Rob Deere with 20. Damon Berryhill still among the league leaders. You can see why I made that trade. Unfortunately, it was a very bad move. Oops, what am I doing? Come on. There we go. RBI, Cal Daniels of the Cubbies. There's Len Matusik, Jeff Reed, a backup catcher. Eric Davis, Mike Alaga. They have a lot of schlubs on this list. Okay. And Ricky B. Ricky leading in steals. That's what we want to see, right? 39, Eric Davis with 27, Jim Weaver, Herm Winningham, Steve Howard, Scott Lukes, Pittman, Ford, Hatcher, Rudy Law. All right, well, let's go back to the American League, and we'll take a look at some of the pitching categories here. I guess we'll start with, we're just going to go in order, and we'll do this quickly. Complete games, Randy O'Neal has 6 for Baltimore. whenever I see this list, I think, how does not every pitcher have 10? You know, like every starter who plays against us goes the distance. The only way they don't is if we tag them early. Otherwise, it's a guaranteed complete game. So that kind of blows my mind. ERA. Oil can, 248. There's Romanek. So there's 4 pitchers under 3. That seems okay. Jeff Robinson, I mean, he was leading the American League in our ERA. Now he's up to 3.69. Brian Kelly makes the list somehow. That's kind of amazing. All right, there's your ERA leaders. Games pitched. Dave Smith just missed 15 games and he still leads. He still leads. That's amazing. Fisher's down there now. Jeff Montgomery just came back. The only non-Tiger, there's 2 here, I guess, is Jerry Don and Chuck Krim. That's crazy. All right. And funny. All right. Who's got the most double plays so far? There's 6 with 19. No Tigers, of course. Let's see. Who's hit the most batters? Jaime Kokenauer. And he's injured, right? Yeah, for almost another month. Brian Kelly, Dan Petrie. Home runs allowed. Who's given up the most dongs? Tom Klowitter. This guy was the staff ace just 2 years ago. Now he's their 5th starter with a 12 ERA, and he's given up 25 home runs. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. He went from 17 wins to 1 win. I just don't understand. But interesting. Dave Roseman's given up 16. He's going to give up a lot more. All right. Innings pitched. Al Lakowitz. Just a smidge over Boyd. We have nobody even close. I think Jeff Robinson has 97 innings, right? And then quality starts, I guess. Bruce Bereni has 15, so does Oil Can. Hey, Brian Kelly's got 9. That's nice. Good for him. I mean, I would not have, of all of our pitchers, I would not have thought Brian Kelly. Scrolling. Saves. Wow. Joe Bever, or Baver, I can't remember which way it is, has actually tied Dave Smith with 22. And then there's Lee Smith. Todd Fisher, he got 3 while he had a shot. That's more than I would have thought. That's interesting. Okay. Saves, and then we've got shutties. Randy O'Neal has pitched 3 shutouts for Baltimore, and Mike Bodeker's pitched 2. Lisa Welchell's pitched 1. So Baltimore has 6 complete game shutouts. At least. Al Lakowitz has started 20 games. I think he'll probably be Texas's all-star representative. Strikeouts pitched. Mark Langston, 139. There's Teddy. There's 8 that are 100 or more right now. We have nobody, of course. Almost done. Let's take a look at. Oh, we didn't see walks for batters. I'm always curious. McGuire and Connolly. Okay. And wins for pitchers. Wow. There's 4 12-game winners right now, all on different teams. Oil Can Boyd is probably the biggest Cy Young candidate right now. If there were odds on that, I would say he's probably, I don't know, 15 to 1. But there's 12, because we're at the halfway point, right? So there's 12 pitchers potentially that could win 20 games in the American League. Jeff Robinson has 7, and he hasn't had a win, he hasn't had a win in, he's had 1 win in 9 starts. So we may not have one pitcher get to 10 wins this year, and that's not even a joke. Okay. Let's just do the categories for the National League here real quick. ERA, strikeouts, and saves. Okay, National League. Last year's Cy Young Award winner, Tim Belcher, has 13. There's Tony Gelfi, who has 12, and he fell off the pyramid. That's weird. I should double check and make sure I didn't overlook him. Former Tiger Bruce Robbins has 9 for Houston. I guess somebody's got to get those wins. All right, and then we'll take a look here at ERA. Tom Candiotti. Now, you got to remember that I manually gave Tom Candiotti his knuckler. I gave it a 90. And he is 8-0 in 11 starts. He did suffer some injuries for the Cubbies. I think I said he was on the Reds, but he's on the Cubs. 16 walks, 71 strikeouts. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's a good response from the game. They have, 6 pitchers that are under 3. Oops, what am I doing? And then we have strikeouts. Steve Howard. Oh, this is batter strikeouts. My bad. Strikeouts pitched. Okay, J.R. Richard for the Phils. That's a good free agent signing for them. He's got 120. Valenzuela's right there. Ron Darling, Soto, Randy Johnson, Tom Browning. There's some really good names on that list. That's good to see. All right, and last but not least is the save category. Bill Caudill of the Cubbies and Alejandro Pena for the Dodgers. There's Franco and Bedrock, Tom Hankey, former Tiger, Todd Worrell. There's a lot of people who were actual closers during this era. All right. Jeez, I don't know, guys. Let's just have a quick refresher here as we go back to the calendar, and we'll wrap this up. So what do we got here? We got we got 6 games before the All-Star break. There will be a home run derby. If you don't play this game, it's not like it shows you the home run derby. You just click on it, and it'll give you a written breakdown of who participated and how many they hit, and then it'll let you know who won. I just thought that'd be kind of fun to see who the game throws in for the home run derby. And then we have the All-Star game that will take place on the 9th. I have no idea who will be our representative. I think it's going to be David Berryhill probably. And then we'll come out of the break facing the Indians. And probably, I'm going to say, by the 15th, by the midway point of the month, I will start making trades. We'll see how many more teams have fallen out of it. We'll see where we're at in the standings. We're 4 games back now, as we already said. If we're 10 games back, there might not be any point. So we'll see if George Brett gets it right. By then, we'll have Kirk Gibson back. And maybe after a couple of games, we'll see what he's doing. Gibby's contract will be up, so he's a definite traded asset possibly. So we shall see. Okay, that's going to do it. I thank you all for watching. Like and or subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back tomorrow playing the first game of the Orioles series. Until then, everyone, have a great day.